Hey, ladies and gentlemen, this is Kyle Miller, Free Source Reporting. And tonight we're going to touch on a few subjects, including Kyle Rittenhouse, Joe Jorgensen, Major League Sports, and the Portland shooting last night. And if you want to introduce yourself, Kyle, it's up to you.
Yeah, hi. I'm Kyle Grossman. I met Mr. Miller through some mutual friends on Facebook, and I'm more than happy to be here.
Yep. He is now one of the newest members of Free Source Reporting team, and happy to have him.
I appreciate it, man. I've been looking forward to getting into journalism for a while now. It's hard to get into it independently.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what our platform is for. It's for people who want to get into something and don't have a platform to establish one. And that at no cost to you too. So
Yeah, yeah, that's another thing. Yeah.
hey, we actually, I don't know if the person's gonna watch this, but we actually got our entire server cost for the year covered by a donor a couple weeks ago. It just
Oh wow.
just randomly sent it to my Venmo, and so I was very happy about that. I said, you literally just ran our company server for a year. So all right, all right. So let's get into my favorite subject of the past few days, Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yeah. Oh man.
So where to start? So let's. So I'm gonna start off with as neutral as I try and stay. Here's my opinion on the situation, and I'm gonna start off by saying that I suggest that everybody do their own research. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to anybody else and take their word for things. Do all of your own independent research.
Yeah.
Places like our website, it's a good starting point
It's a
for
resource to get you started.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And but you need to do your own research. Look at the videos yourself. Look at all
Hmm.
the angles that you can possibly find.
And there's always new things that come out too.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. If you find a good source, subscribe to them and see, because you'll get notifications that they update situations. I want to start off by saying that, this whole narrative that he drove from way out of state to come kill Black Lives
Yeah.
Matter
Oh,
protesters.
totally unsubstantiated. There's literally no evidence of that. The only thing that they can even remotely say that is true on a technicality is that he did cross state lines. But what they refuse to say and what they've outwardly tried to omit and deceive people with is how far Kenosha and Antioch actually are.
Oh yeah,
And that's it's like a 20-minute drive. I mean, and then the graphic I saw recently from CNN was like they put like Kenosha way north
yeah. I
east in the state of Wisconsin, and I'm like, that's not where it is.
yeah I posted that myself. Because
Yeah.
CNN was like live from Kenosha, and it
Yeah,
was
and
all the way
I'm
up by
like
the
Kenosha's like,
Panhandle.
yeah, Kenosha's way down. I mean, like, because I was trying to explain to because I live in Texas, and Texas is huge. The Houston area is massive, and I live in like the northern part of Houston area, and like the drive to Kenosha is like from Antioch is the same distance and drive it would take me to get to like Tomball, Texas from Magnolia, Texas, which is like the two main towns that I live in.
I,
That's like 30 minutes apart from each
yeah,
other.
I
That's
used to live in Texas, so basically to get from your home to civilization, basically
it's
anywhere
where I
in
worked. I
Texas.
worked, yeah. I worked in Tomball. I worked in another part of Magnolia. I worked out in Waller, Texas, which all these things are like 30 minutes away from each other.
Yeah, like
And so like it's just
I was explaining to people from my area. I was like, it's like from North Stafford to Fredericksburg, Virginia. I said
yeah.
it's literally that far. I
Yep.
mean,
Yeah.
with a little bit of traffic,
Yep.
and and people were like, no, he drove from far out of state
Yeah.
with the
Yep.
intent to
Yeah.
murder, like that.
And then and then it comes out that the rifle didn't even cross state lines. It's from Wisconsin. Like I guess the owner of the so supposedly he Kyle Rittenhouse, based on what his lawyer has said, is that he worked at like a local business in there in Kenosha,
Uh-huh.
as a job, and a business owner had asked him to guard his business because of, all the unrest and people are burning down buildings for no reason. I mean, like, I understand you might be upset about you're upset about the shooting of Jacob Blake. Got it. That's totally fine. You can be upset about that, but man, you gotta peacefully protest.
Yeah.
Like, you cannot. Rioting is not the answer. It never works. It always, always, always leads to more people not wanting to back you. And then a lot of these things now it's coming out like a lot of these narratives aren't even accurate, and people jumping the gun to make judgment calls immediately. I mean, like, the video of Kyle Rittenhouse's encounter is based on like what we had that night, clearly showed self-defense. Like, he's running away in every single instance until they knock him down.
Yeah. And reports are that the initial confrontation, besides at the gas station where
Yeah.
where Joseph Rosenbaum was literally telling the militia to shoot him, shoot me,
Yeah.
explicative. But the reports are, and I haven't seen. I think somebody said there might be a video of Rittenhouse actually going up to them while they were destroying cars at the car lot. I haven't confirmed that yet, but
I think I know what you're talking about. So you might be slightly confused, but there's a video of what it was a dumpster had been lit on fire, and I have seen the video, but I don't know if it's Rittenhouse that puts it out. But it's a dumpster's on fire, and there's some protesters that are pushing it, and they're pushing it over towards the lot or the gas station or whatever, and somebody runs up with a fire extinguisher and puts it out and then takes off. And people are claiming that was Rittenhouse that did that.
No. See, I watched that live, and that was I called him Skinny, but that was one of the main militiamen who put that fire out. It wasn't
okay, so it wasn't Rittenhouse. All right.
What I'm talking about, and I haven't seen video yet, but the reports are that Rittenhouse went to. I've seen the video where Rosenbaum and I forget the dude with the skateboard's name. Anthony Huber. Yeah, I saw the video of them jumping on cars in the car lot, destroying vehicles and stuff. The report is, and the claim is that Kyle went over there to stop them from destroying the vehicle.
Yeah.
From destroying the vehicles, and they started chasing him. And Huber was armed with a pistol, right? It was Huber that was armed with the pistol.
Oh no, that was Gage Grosscut.
Yeah.
Grosscut. That was the third guy.
Yeah, and Rosenbaum started chasing after Kyle.
Yep.
And then then we have that confrontation.
Yeah.
And Rosenbaum ends up shot. Now, I'm curious to wait for the full ME investigation report, because
I want to know the ballistics on those wounds.
Yes, because I've read a claim that the AR is what 5.56.
Yeah, AR is 5.56 and 2.23.
And that they found other rounds in Rosenbaum, which I saw a video yesterday where the man who had the gun that fired up into the air.
Yeah, Gage.
Yes, there was a different viewpoint that it looked like he was actually aiming where Rosenbaum was, and you hear small arms fire. And you see Rosenbaum lurch forward like that, as if he's hitting the back, which is one of the claims, which is the claim from the affidavit that he was shot in the back as well. So if that turns out to be a smaller caliber round, it means that...
Well, no, that would actually be a bigger caliber round.
Would it?
Because Gage... So 5.56... Well, a lot of people... I have a lot of firearms experience. 5.56 is a smaller bullet than a 9mm from a handgun. It is a smaller bullet. The casing is different. That's where the difference is the amount of powder behind it. So... what Gage had was a Glock. It looked like a Glock 23, which is chambered in 9mm or 40 cal, and because you can get them swapped or whatever. And that handgun the bullet wound from that would be bigger than a wound from a 5.56 or 2.23.
Okay.
Um, so I have seen New York Times, in fact, their one of their articles about it. The original breakdown was you could see muzzle flash um, from somebody with a handgun right before you hear the volley of four shots from the AR, because
Well,
there's a very distinct difference in the sounds from a handgun and a rifle.
yeah, I was actually I was re-streaming that when it happened, and I think Anthony Mercado actually is the one who caught the footage. You can actually see the dude with the handgun fire in the air twice,
Yeah,
and then he starts to head over to where Rosenbaum and Rittenhouse are,
yeah,
and then that's when and the new video that came out is what what supposedly shows him
yeah,
firing that direction after, because there was five smaller weapon
yep,
shots before Rittenhouse ever fired his weapon.
yeah, and also the in the charges against Rittenhouse, um, Rosenbaum was found to have, so he had that superficial wound on his head that everyone thought was the kill shot. Everyone thought he got killed by being shot in the head. That's not. It turns out that isn't the case. That was a superficial wound where he got grazed, and then he had another wound in his hand. He had one in his groin area, and then he had another one in the back that went through his lung and liver, I believe.
Yeah.
And that was the kill shot. Um, Now that could have, and so like in defense of Gage Grosskreutz, because I'm not trying to make any kind of accusations without any kind of evidence, but if Gage really is the one that shot Rosenbaum in the back or whatever, that's different. But if it was Kyle, it is possible that when he initially hit Rosenbaum the first couple times, because there are four distinct wounds on Rosenbaum, which means that all four shots could very well have come from Kyle Rittenhouse. But when you get shot, everybody reacts differently. I mean, I've heard this from many, many different people that I've known throughout the years that have been in the military, law enforcement, all kinds of stuff, or just people that have been shot in general. And uh, there's a lot of force behind a bullet, and it can spin you. So if Rittenhouse had actually shot him and did have the bullet that was in his back or whatever, it's very much possible that the bullet, if he hit him in the groin area first and the hand while he's spinning and the head while he's spinning or whatever, it could have spun him around and then got him hit in the back
Yeah.
from Rittenhouse. But because that all happens really quick. But we don't know until they release ballistics on whether or not all four of the wounds coincide with a 5.56 round, or if one of them turns out to be a 9mm or a 40, which then that completely removes Rittenhouse from the equation of him dying.
Well,
So then
and not to, and
Rittenhouse would
not
only
just
be responsible of one.
not just that, but it also shows that Rittenhouse had very, besides just the situation in general, it
Yeah,
shows that Rittenhouse had very real reasons
actively in life-threatening situation.
yes, yes, because
Actively in a
he
life-threatening
was
situation.
literally being fired upon.
Yes, because if Rosenbaum is getting hit from behind, that means someone's shooting at him
Yeah,
from behind Rosenbaum, and that doesn't really surprise me because a lot of people, like, I mean, not to not to really like be an ass about some of these things, but some of these people that end up getting in these shooting scenarios or whatever. I mean, I've seen plenty of footage of plenty of different shootings. The the control of the weapon from a lot of these people are just it's bad. It's really bad. One major rule is like never point a loaded weapon or any kind of weapon at somebody unless you're willing to destroy them or and all that stuff. And that's like day one kind of thing you learn. But Rittenhouse very well. I mean, from what I saw, he had extreme control of his weapon.
Yeah.
In the other video, in the other video where he like ends up shooting Gage and Anthony, he has extreme control of his weapon. He only fired, I believe, in that short section. I'm pretty sure he only fired 4 shots the entire time, and 2 of which made contact
Yeah.
with the perpetrators. And then in the other situation, whatever, if he fired 4 shots and all 4 hit, then that's extreme. That's extreme control. A lot of people shoot wildly,
Yeah.
and he had extreme discipline with his the amount of ammunition he expunged anyways because of his he only most because he didn't have any extra magazines. He only had what was in that rifle, and that gives him a maximum of 31 rounds if he had one in the chamber plus a full 30-round mag. Otherwise, he only has 30 rounds. And if you're being surrounded by a massive group of people and you panic and you let off all 30 of those rounds, you're screwed. You got nothing left.
Yeah.
And you still got to get all the way back to the police line.
Yeah.
And I don't buy it that he was there for any kind of mass shooting, which is what I've seen. I've seen people saying he's a mass shooter. He was there to inflict maximum damage. And I said, if that was the case, he's the worst one I've ever seen because he only brought 30 rounds.
Yeah.
Like, I've never heard of a mass shooter bringing less than like 150 rounds.
Well,
Like,
it's not even just that though. It's the fact that he shot the 3 threats.
yeah.
And immediately vacated the area.
Yep.
And went to the police line. You know?
Yeah. And then in Gage's, and apparently Gage had a live stream going at the time, and I believe I either saw it from Ian Chung or Andy No posted it on Twitter earlier today or whatever, and Gage ended up catching up to Rittenhouse before Rittenhouse was engaged the second time, and asked him, "What are you doing? Where are you going?" And he says, "I'm going to the police." Like, Rittenhouse clearly says, "I'm going to the police."
Yeah.
So he's trying to leave.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like he's trying to engage with more people. I mean, anyone who's ever been in a situation where they've had to shoot somebody in self-defense or for anything, they'll tell you that it is one of the worst things you could ever do because it's such a heavy thing. And he's 17.
Yeah.
This he's a kid, quite literally a child. I mean, he's old enough to, enlist in the military and stuff like that, but he is still under the age of 18. And I mean, when I was 17, I don't think I would have done too well in a situation like that. Being surrounded by a mob of people. I mean, hell, even now, that's nuts. I can't imagine how that felt to feel the level of probably hopelessness that you've got people just shot at you. You shot one guy and now you're trying to get away. You don't know if they're still chasing you. And if they've got a gun, they could shoot you at any second.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't even know it's coming.
Yeah.
I mean, that kid very clearly wanted to get out of that situation. If it was, and then they claim there's another claim that he had, after shooting Gage and Anthony, that he fired into the crowd. That's unsubstantiated. You can see it in the video. Anytime he shot, you could see the smoke come out of the end of the barrel whenever he'd fired. Well, after he shot Gage, that was the last time you ever saw smoke come out of that barrel. But you heard 16 more shots because people were shooting at him.
Yeah.
And they just missed. And I had I had one guy tried to tell me, he was like, "Do you honestly believe that people shot at him and missed?" And I'm like, "Yes. Have you ever shot a gun? It's pretty hard to control." I mean, especially if you have no training.
Yeah.
If if you don't shoot a gun.
Well, and the thing is, I mean, there were even before any of this incident, I mean, there was firearms going off.
Oh yeah,
all
well, there's firearms, there's fireworks. So you've got all these loud pops in the background all the time. Over by the over by the, what was it, the courthouse that they had the police line set up at, where they were having the police were clashing with the protesters the most.
Yeah.
Was over there, and so you had like less than lethal being fired. That sounds like a gunshot.
Yeah.
Because it's fire. It's, you use gunpowder to fire it. They had less than lethal. They had flashbangs. They had, tear gas. And then the rioters are using, fireworks. So you've got loud pops and everything all around you. But gunshots are a totally different sound.
Oh yeah.
Like
yeah, very very distinct.
Yeah, it's a very distinct sound. So they're very hard to mistake, especially if you're familiar with what a gunshot normally sounds like.
Well, that's why Anthony Mercado from Mercado Media, he's former military. He's served
Yeah.
Served tours in Iraq.
Yeah. He's like, those are gunshots.
Yeah. He's like, whoa, those are gunshots.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean and I want to make a point that I'm on the fence as far as the second two that were shot. All right. If it weren't for that video with them with Rosenbaum, or at least the one with the skateboard, with Rosenbaum at the gas station. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So Huber, not as much, but the other guy, if I was in that situation and I literally thought that somebody just shot somebody, out of nowhere, I'm personally not chasing the dude down and trying to take his rifle.
Well, yeah, that was probably the dumbest thing I saw somebody do, and oh man, just the sheer stupidity of those people that chased Rittenhouse down was just unfathomable. The first guy, totally unarmed, just tries to jump on a kid who has a rifle.
Yeah.
I mean, dude,
that's because he sucker punched him from the back.
That wasn't the same guy. Different guy sucker punched him from the back.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying the first guy came from behind, sucker punched him.
First guy sucker punches him, and then he ends up tripping and falling, and then that guy jumps up, tries to kick him in the face or whatever, misses, gets him in the shoulder, and that's when Rittenhouse fires his first two shots.
Yeah.
He tries to fire on him, but he misses.
Yeah.
But that guy takes off, probably for the best. Otherwise, he'd probably be dead along with Huber, and Rosenbaum. And then Huber comes up and very clearly tries to hit the kid in the head with his skateboard, and grabs the gun and points it right at his own chest, and then gets shot in the chest.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it went in his stomach and up through his chest into his I think it was his left lung and his heart, but it was a heart shot, so he died like seconds later.
Yeah.
And then Gage hesitates, fakes surrendering, and then pulls his gun and walks up to him, and at this point Rittenhouse is sitting on the ground. He's got the gun totally down or whatever. He's not even pointing it at Gage yet, because he doesn't think he's a threat yet. He sees the guy with his hands up or whatever. And then he pulls his gun, goes to reach for the gun, bang, your biceps gone.
Yep.
Like, I mean, just stupidity all around. But also, before anybody tries to say that, like, I'm glad that, Rittenhouse was there or whatever, I think Rittenhouse shouldn't have been there. Rittenhouse is a 17-year-old kid. I don't think he should have been there.
I don't think he should have been there armed with the militia. I mean,
yeah, I don't think he should have been there. I mean, he's 17.
I think he should have. I don't have a problem with him being there with the militia. I personally don't.
Yeah.
I wouldn't send my 17-year. I wouldn't let my 17-year-old go armed. If he wanted to go with a medic kit, to help.
Even that though.
I'm fine with that. Because if I have a 17-year-old, and as much as I don't like his bootlicking, I'm as much as I try and stay, I'm against a overreaching government. So as much as I don't like much of his personal beliefs so far that have come out, I don't know. My 17-year-old is going to make their own decisions. as far as
Yeah.
stuff like that goes. But they're gonna be well educated. They're gonna know like this is the type. I mean, you could die. You could go out there and
Yeah.
be shot by somebody. You could go out there and
Yeah.
be killed by a less lethal. I mean,
Yeah.
so
Somebody could walk up behind you out of nowhere and hit you in the head with a brick or some shit and knock you, kill you. I
yeah,
mean, it's so. Uh,
even accidentally.
Yeah, and that's another thing that these that a lot of these people don't understand is how easily you can kill someone.
Yeah,
I've seen it personally. I saw when I was younger, I saw a guy punch another man in the face, and they were friends. They were boxing. It was like a friendly boxing match or whatever. I saw them fighting with each other as like a I don't know. It was just like they were having a good time or whatever. And the one guy got a good punch in, knocked him out. He fell backwards, hit his head, died.
yep,
I mean, it's that quick.
yep,
It's so easy. No weapons involved. No one had a gun. Nobody had a knife. It was just fists.
yep,
But you can die so easily. And so that's why I'm like, when people say like, oh, well, deadly force isn't warranted if you're being punched. And I'm like, you can still die.
yeah,
Like, deadly force is warranted.
yep,
Like that's that is 100% okay. I mean, I don't want to say it's 100% okay. Like I'm condoning people going out and killing people, but it's like if you're in a situation where someone's attacking you, whether that's with their fists, with a knife, with a gun, doesn't matter. You have a right to preserve your existence.
yeah. Well, if I'm in a
I,
situation where I can be potentially knocked unconscious by my aggressor,
oh
I
yeah,
am defending myself because if I am knocked unconscious, they could do what they want. I mean, they could kill me
yeah,
while I'm unconscious. I mean,
yep, yeah,
so that's
oh
why
yeah.
even a punch is very it can
It
be a
can be
potentially
lethal.
lethal
It can be
situation
lethal.
even if it isn't in itself.
Yeah, and it potentially can lead to a situation where you do end up dead. It's very easily done. And then there's also like all the stuff that's been going on in these protests where people are getting beaten half to. I mean, the guy in Portland not long ago, whatever, just like a week before this happened, Marquise Love or whatever, that guy kicked him in the face out of nowhere while he's sitting on the ground. And he slams his head back into the pavement. He's lucky to be alive.
Yeah.
He's lucky to be alive. That was attempted murder.
Yep.
People don't realize that. They're like, "Oh, well, he wasn't trying to kill." No, that can kill somebody.
Yeah. And I am 100% for peaceful protesting,
Oh
especially
yeah,
against an overreaching government. I mean,
hell yes.
it
Dude,
is.
I'm no fan of the cops.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of the police. I don't think the police are something that you're supposed to always respect no matter what and never question. No. Like, yes, question your police. Sometimes they make mistakes and they can be really bad ones.
Yeah.
And you need to hold them accountable. But not every situation is that.
Yeah.
Not every single situation is that. And I mean, anybody with half of a brain that just sits and looks at some of these situations can realize that. It's I mean, because there's some bad situations, there's some bad police. Just like there's not everyone at these protests or riots or whatever are necessarily bad people. Not everyone is committing arson. Not everyone is beating people. But the fact that you're out there with them is the problem. But these people are also saying that all police are your enemy and stuff like that. So if that's the case, then the inverse should also be true.
Yeah. No,
Like,
I
then
get what you're saying.
therefore you're all bad.
Well,
Even though I know clearly you're not all bad.
let me mention something that I saw on the streams last night that I was actually kind of happy for, and I have seen it. I saw it when I reported at the inauguration in D.C., and I've seen it on streams and such since. But it doesn't happen enough.
Yeah.
They were in D.C. last night. Well, a bunch of people from Portland came to D.C. for the anniversary of the civil rights
The
march.
MLK speech. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, they were trying to throw stuff at cops and stuff, and I shout out to Black Lives Matter DC. Their organizers shut that shit down quick.
Good, yeah.
And they
You
called
need
them out.
more.
They were like, "This is
Yep,
not what we are here for."
yeah,
And
yep,
I in at Trump's inauguration, I went there early. I met with the Black Lives Matter DC people, and I will say,
yeah,
as far as all the Black Lives Matter chapters go, I've personally met them, and I will say that they are a lot more level-headed. They took,
yeah,
at his inauguration, they chained themselves to the fences and stuff, but like it was
yeah.
peaceful. It was peaceful
Yeah.
for the most part.
Dude, you can do all kinds of publicity stunts as long as you're not hurting anybody. I
Yeah,
don't care.
yeah,
Like seriously, the only thing I ask you not do is like, can you maybe not, go block highways and stuff like that? Because for one, that puts you in danger and other people.
yeah,
It's unnecessary danger. I mean, like, I'm 100% in support of peaceful protests, but I don't want people getting hurt.
yeah,
And I don't want protesters getting hurt. I don't want other people that aren't protesting getting hurt either.
yeah,
So it's like it's just everybody just needs to respect each other and level heads need to prevail. And that's what's so hard is that so many people aren't level headed and they can't.
yeah.
And it's just like because everything's so polarized now. I mean, I've posted a couple images on Facebook in like some comment sections or whatever. I'm one community guidelines violation away from being locked for a while.
Yeah.
And all because I posted an image of Kyle Rittenhouse saying that I support his right to self-defense. And I've got like 2 strikes now. And I'm like, well, great. Awesome.
I'll be curious to see how far this video goes. To be honest.
Um, I think it'll probably be okay. YouTube has been all right about these kinds of things, not not as bad, but it'll probably get shadow banned. I
Yeah.
mean, I won't.
Yeah.
It'll
No.
probably get
Yeah. I
get
don't doubt it.
throttled. Yeah, it'll probably get throttled, but I wouldn't say that it's going to be completely outwardly taken out as long as we don't say anything like egregious, you know?
Oh yeah. No, we're not. Like
Yeah,
it's all around a sad situation. I mean it.
the
I
loss of life should always be mourned.
yeah.
You never ever want people. I mean, I don't want an armed conflict in this country.
Oh no.
Please God, don't let that happen
Yeah.
because it's gonna be so bad.
Nope. I mean the Civil War was the bloodiest war that this
Oh,
nation has ever
and
fought. And
but not just that, it's
destroyed
brother killing
families.
brother.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Especially when something is spurned by political ideology or just personal
Yeah,
ideology.
yeah,
It that's why families get ripped apart. I mean,
yeah,
especially with the generation gaps that you have.
yeah,
Like the majority of not just Black Lives Matter, but
yep,
social justice warrior era
yeah,
people.
yeah,
They're younger, and
yeah,
they're literally if civil war breaks out, it's going to be them versus their older families.
yeah. And then they're also going to be against their peers that aren't like them. I mean, like me, I'm younger too. I'm 23. I'll be 24 in October.
Oh,
I
are
mean,
you
so
really?
I'm not.
You're younger
Yeah,
than me.
yeah. So I'm not like some old guy either. I'm younger too. I'm just I was just raised a little differently. A lot of it just stems from like where you grew up, who your parents are and stuff like that, and like what kind of values you were instilled with. And not to say that there's only one way of parenting because
Oh yeah,
there's not, but it's like it all does go into effect like who you turn out to be.
yeah,
And that's fine. I mean, if I love diversity. Diversity is a great thing. There's the diversity of thought is very important to progress as a society. You
agreed.
have to have differing ideas challenging each other. That's why I love when people can come to me with a differing opinion, but actually back it up and have a calm, cool, and collected discussion with me rather than, oh, well, you're just a racist or you're a Nazi with no evidence just because they're mad at me.
Yep.
You know?
I literally I have been called a racist 12 times since Saturday evening.
Yeah, yeah,
I have, and I literally said nothing about race. I
Yeah.
I all
Well,
I all I
well,
did
for
was
one,
talk about facts in a case,
yeah.
and it made me a racist, right wing
Yep.
extremist, which is
Yeah.
farthest from the truth.
They call me a domestic terrorist, all this stuff, and and all because I'm talking about Kyle Rittenhouse and his right to defend himself. Mind you, none of the people that were shot were black or Hispanic or anything. They were all white,
Yep.
every single one of them, and but it was still a racially motivated attack.
Yep.
How?
Kyle was even with the protesters
Yeah,
earlier
there's
in the day.
videos.
He was
Yeah,
he was
there's videos
maced.
of him with them.
He was
Like,
maced by police
yeah,
because he was
the
with
kid.
the
Yeah, that kid
protest.
got a taste of what the cops really can be. He got a taste for it. He sure did. That, and so maybe that'll change his mind about the whole law enforcement situation. Because I remember when I was about his age, I was about the same way. I was pretty blue liney kind of guy. Um, but it was, but it was, I was a kid. I didn't have a lot of experience. And as you get older, nuance becomes a thing. Like when you're a kid, it's like there's right and wrong and there's no gray areas or whatever. But that's not true. There's a lot of gray areas. There's some people are good, some people are bad. Some people are really good in bad spots. Some people are bad in good spots. I mean, just there's so much
Yeah.
that goes into all this. But but that's pretty much how the Rittenhouse situation is playing out. I really hope that this prosecutor doesn't completely railroad this situation to where he's completely screwed. The charges, I'm pretty sure, won't be able to stick
I think
based on the evidence,
I think that
except for carrying under the age.
yes, and I think um, maybe unlawful discharge of a firearm.
Maybe, but that might be taken off if they can prove self-defense too, though.
Yeah,
So
I gotta
because
look.
there have been situations where somebody you know picked up someone's firearm that was trying to attack them or whatever, and it wasn't theirs or whatever, and they didn't have a right to have it, but they killed their attacker, and it was still deemed self-defense.
Yeah.
So I mean, there are precedents to that. So maybe he'll be able to get through, based on that stuff.
Well,
But
and
who
see,
knows? He's got a good lawyer though. So
unfortunately, um, you know, he's not going to get any type of plea offer, anything like that, because the nation will be in an uproar if he is.
yeah,
And I honestly, I don't, I don't recommend to him that he take one. To be honest, I mean,
yeah.
I,
Well, because it'll screw him.
it,
I mean, if they, because then you if you take some kind of a plea deal or whatever on these kinds of charges, they're gonna stick you with something that's gonna stick to life.
yep. No,
And
they'll
in
make him a
this,
felon so that they can tell the press that he can no longer own a firearm
yeah,
and
and all that stuff, that'll ruin his dream so far of going to the military or being a law enforcement officer and all that stuff. I mean, that that kid's whole life will basically end at 17,
yep,
which is insane,
yep,
especially for the types of felonies that he's been charged with. I mean, like there's some that will eventually fall off your record, but these are not those.
yeah,
These are serious, violent, intentional homicide charges. There's
yep.
a whole big thing that goes with that, and I don't know that they can actually prove that based on the evidence.
No,
But there's also been moments in history, in American history, where whether or not they can prove something didn't matter. They just did it. I mean, like look at Ruby Ridge,
yeah,
for instance. There's been situations like that.
yep.
So
All right, we're gonna go ahead and end this section here. Um, thank, thanks everybody, and we'll have another episode coming in a little bit as well.